and welcome to the Cowboy Chronicles, the Oklahomans Oklahoma State football podcast. I am your host, Scott Wright, joined by Jacob Unruh. We're here again, here at Stonecloud.
We're back.
Loving this place.
Oh.
This has been the coolest thing that's ever happened to the Cowboy Chronicles right here.
This place is hopping.
Man. It is, man.
There's so many people here on a Tuesday night. A lot of places don't get this necessarily,
right?
but you got a chance to come out here. 917 South Husband.
That's right.
Enjoy a beer at Stonecloud. They have great options. Great patio out back.
Right.
It's a bright, sunny day, as you might be able to tell a little bit on the video here.
You can see a little
bright
bit there.
sun all over this place, but it's awesome.
It really is. We're really thankful to the folks here at Stonecloud for letting us come and hang out, record our podcast here. For those of you who are listening on the regular podcast, thank you as always. And we're glad that we can be coming to you on YouTube with the video version here as well. So lots of fun. I will say our post-game podcast we're doing, for those of you who aren't familiar, we're doing on Twitter Spaces after the game, record the audio and post it on the podcast channel. If you listen to our Central Michigan post-game podcast, my apologies.
Yeah.
My technical difficulties, well, they were really bad. That's all I can say.
Our age might have shown
A little bit.
on that.
A little bit, yeah.
It was rough.
But it'll get better. We're still really looking forward to doing that. We had some folks tuning in, even though it was past midnight when we started recording. But we'll get the bugs worked out on that, and glad that we can still bring it to you on the regular podcast channel as well. So, really exciting things here at the Cowboy Chronicles podcast.
We also have to do another house cleaning option. We have to talk about our newsletter.
Absolutely.
We have a newsletter,
We
guys.
do.
We have the Oklahoma State Cowboy Sports Minute newsletter, oklahoman.com. Subscribe, comes your email. Lots of content from us throughout the week, each game. It's totally worth subscribing to.
Absolutely. Check it out. Get kept up on everything that is coming to you through the oklahoman.com. Or oklahoman.com. No the.
Yeah.
But let's kind of, there's a lot of things we're going to try to do with the with the podcast, things that we normally do. Talk about. We just finished talking to Oklahoma State players. Got to talk to a few guys today that were very insightful. We'll get into some of our weekly predictions like we did last season as well. A few different things. Have some fun. Want to point out we will be here every Tuesday night throughout the season between 6:30 and 7. We don't have a real firm time, but it just all depends on Mike Gundy and his guys what time they finish practicing. So we get to talk to guys after practice and never know how long that's going to go. So you're welcome to come out here and join us. As you can see, lots of people taking in the festivities here at Stonecloud. So if you ever want to know specifics about us, find us on Twitter. Let us know. We would love to have some fans come out and hang out with us. Ask us some questions if you want, whatever you want to do. So lots of exciting stuff. But let's kind of lay things out tonight. We got to talk to actually, wait, before we get to that, we got to discuss something far more important.
Super important.
Super important. Go ahead.
What are we drinking tonight?
I'm curious about what you're starting
what
with.
we're drinking.
It's not just the sunshine here that's the optical
It's
illusion. His beer is actually much darker than what I've got in my glass.
I went with the Fest beer. It's the Oktoberfest.
Mm-hmm.
It's September. It's Oktoberfest. It's fall beer time, and it's quite delightful. It's very smooth, very good stuff. I've had this before. I love it. I highly recommend it. But yeah, I went with the Fest beer.
You're more experienced with the Stonecloud variety, which they have a lot of variety. I'm fairly new. There's a couple of them that I was familiar with, and that was it. This is a new one for me. Now, Lageritaville. I almost forgot what I was drinking, and I haven't even drank that much of it yet. So, who knows what's going to happen when we get down to
it? Might get crazy tonight.
It might get really nuts. But yeah, so really enjoying this so far. And I haven't found anything from Stonecloud that I don't like yet to this point. So.
I really haven't either. I'll be honest. I
Right.
really have not either. This is such a great place to have a good beer.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk football. Let's real quick breakdown of last week. Obviously, we had our post-game podcast. Technical issues aside, we covered a lot in that. But what's kind of the lasting effect, lasting thought from the Central Michigan game for you?
I keep going back to the defense
and
the miscommunication issues that they had. They chalked a lot of the second half issues up to communication, inexperienced players, and the communication wasn't necessarily between coaches to players. It was more about execution and the players not being in the right spot or freezing and not getting to the right spot and thinking too hard about what they need to do, and that led to issues. But I think it's something that could be pretty – I don't want to say it's easy to correct, but it could be corrected and made to something they could grow and learn from. But I think that's what really stands out to me.
Yeah, and coaches say this enough that you assume it has to be mostly true. The most progress is made between game 1 and game 2.
Mm-hmm.
And especially having the extra couple of days going from the Thursday game to a Saturday game. I know talking to Derek Mason in postgame, he was very excited about that opportunity, the chance to have a couple of extra days to really dive into what went right, what went wrong against Central Michigan, and get those things corrected. The thing that's still sticking out for me is the fast pace of this offense. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be a really good thing for the offense. It's going to be a little bit rough on the defense because they are going to be on the field a little bit more, defending a lot more possessions. They defended 16 possessions on last Thursday. And, they were in the neighborhood of about 12 a game last year that they were having to defend because the offense was slowing things down. They were taking good care of the ball. It's going to be different with this team when they can score as fast as they can. There are going to be a lot of short possessions for the offense and a lot more time on the field for the defense. I think, the defense is sort of playing catch-up anyway in terms of where the offense is compared to where they are. But I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on throughout the season, is how much pressure a really good offense and a really fast offense is putting on a defense that's still learning and growing. So it's a good problem to have when your offense can score the way that they look like they can. But that said, it's going to be interesting to see how the defense handles it.
I think I'm most excited about this offense to be able to use the term warp speed at will. It's a fun term. I know it's Star Trek, but I like to say it and I like to write it. So I'm going to write warp speed a bunch. So
all right.
Just be prepared.
Oh, there you go. Now you know. So now every time you read one of his stories and you see warp speed, you can just have a little chuckle and say, yeah I knew that was coming.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get back to the present here on Tuesday night out here at Stonecloud. Like I said, we just finished talking to a few players after practice. We got to visit with receivers Bryson Green and John Paul Richardson, and defensive players Shawn Michael Flanagan and Brendan Evers. Now, kind of a little bit behind the scenes, the last 2 years, 2020 changed everything, obviously, with COVID. So postseason or post-game interviews, post-practice interviews were all done on Zoom.
Yeah.
We weren't in the presence of anyone. It was all one person talking at a time. Everybody heard all the same things.
Yes.
Last year, we weren't on Zoom anymore, but it was a podium situation. One player at the podium at a time. We all heard all the same things. This year, we can actually share a little bit different value with our listeners because it's all four players talking at the same time to various groups of people. Mm-hmm. And you and I, other than overlapping for a little bit of Shawn Michael Flanagan talking about fishing, didn't really spend a lot of time talking to the same people at all. I don't think. So we got a lot that we can provide in terms of what folks had to say. The most entertaining part of an interview that I interacted with tonight was John Paul Richardson talking about. There was one moment where he was in sort of I call it a wingback position. You're offset where a tight end would be, but back in the backfield a step. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the term is that the Oklahoma State coaches use for it, but that's what I call it. And
he Cowboy back wing position.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And he was in that position and ended up having to pass block at one point. And he held his own pretty well for a dude that looks like he weighs about 150.
Yeah.
He says he's about 190, but I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
Sure.
But he held his own pretty well for being put in that situation, because that's not the type of position that a guy of his size gets put in against a Division I defensive end. So that was a lot of fun getting to listen to him talk about that. He says he doesn't expect to be in that position a lot, but it could happen from time to time. And he says when he gets that chance, he's going to take advantage of trying to lay out a pancake if he can. So
that's impressive, because he's a slot receiver for a reason.
Yes.
And I just can't imagine him doing that all the time. But
right.
I mean, he clearly wants to have some contact and have some fun. And for a guy like that, that's probably pretty fun. I don't know that we're going to see Brendan Presley doing it.
No.
But John Paul Richardson, I could see.
Yeah. And talking to both receivers, Bryson Green and John Paul Richardson, they were both talking a lot, or being asked a lot, about the use of four wides, the fast pace that allowed this offense to play in, and talking about the comfort level that they have going at that pace. Might not have been quite ready for it last year, but now they've been working on it so firmly over the spring and summer and then into August camp that they're really excited about what they can do. They talked about how fun it is to be in 4 wide and spread the field and know that they have a lot of things they can do in that situation. So that was the big takeaway from talking to those guys. I know you visited with the 2 defensive players a little bit more.
Yeah, I hung around Brendan Evers for a while. He talked about just kind of they can't let that happen again. They can't let the 44 points happen again. They can't just do that. They got to get better. But he liked what he saw too from the defensive line. He talked about Colin Clay and his return. And, Colin Clay is a guy that hadn't played since he'd arrived on campus, transferring from Arkansas, got some significant time there night at defensive tackle and played pretty well. And he really liked what he saw to Colin. I did ask him about Warren. Warren, the Cowboy, is Colin's little brother. And they do tease Colin about Warren and how Warren's a bigger star than Colin. And which is, it's true.
It's accurate.
It's accurate.
Accurate, as Mike Gundy would say.
But Colin has a good attitude about it. Knowing Colin, I've known him since high school. That does not surprise me. He loves his family. He's real close to his family. His dad is Big Rob, and he's a great big personality too. Literally a big guy. Big Rob is not inaccurate by any means. Love those guys. So talked about that. He was, and Evers was also excited about Tyler Lacey playing inside more, which I thought was interesting because Lacey is always been that edge guy, always there, lined up. He was hand down, but always a guy on the edge. And now he's moving inside and making a lot of havoc there. Led to the safety there tonight. And so I think that was really big takeaways I had from Evers there. Shawn Michael Flanagan was just fun. We never really talked to him much. He hasn't, he's been a special teams guy. Got the start the other night with Kendall Daniels coming in relief, and they split time. And Shawn said basically, like, I'm good with whatever the role is. I'm playing. I'm happy. And that's good to see a guy that's a fifth-year senior that's waited that long to get his chance. He had a lot of fun talking to him about fishing too, which I really enjoyed that conversation with him.
Yep.
I'm not a fisherman by any means, but I enjoyed that conversation. We got to learn about where he's from in Arkansas, a really tiny town. All he does is likes to do is fish. I think he hunts too probably, but he fishes with Braden Cassidy a lot. That was a lot of fun.
I mean, literally, someone asked him, other than football and fishing, what's your favorite thing to do in Stillwater? And he had nothing.
Yeah, he
literally
froze.
That's all he does. Yeah,
he froze and got the deer in the headlight look, and I thought, oh boy, here we go.
This guy just fishes and plays football.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
What
a life.
It was pretty evident. Yeah. But it seems like a great dude. It was fun talking to him about the moment of the first start of his career because, like you said, fifth-year senior. He's a guy that's been on a lot of special teams. He was a guy that rotated in some last year in some 6DV situations. So it's not like this was first appearance in Boone Pickens Stadium or anything like that. But he talked about the emotions being overwhelming in that first moment, and finally when he got out there and made some contact and kind of settled in that it was for real and it was real football and he was ready for it. He was able to calm down and really enjoy the moment. So a lot of fun talking to him. He was we haven't got to talk to him really extensively at all throughout his career.
I talked to him in the spring game a little bit afterwards. He's just very reserved, very calm when he talks. It's interesting. It's a very small town feel. I like it.
I liked his mustache.
He has a good mustache.
It was a really nice mustache.
I could never pull that off.
Not real huge, not real thick, but very consistent.
Yeah, I liked that. That was a good move.
It was solid.
And shout out to Jason Taylor too on telling me
with the assist
on the fishing. He said, "Hey, ask him about fishing." So yeah.
A lot of guys that walked by as we were talking to John Paul Richardson really were having some fun with him, giving him a lot of trouble. Kendall Daniels, JT, guys like that were really looking for the opportunity to mess with him as he was getting interviewed by a variety of folks.
That's Jason Taylor for you. He likes to mess with people. Remember last year when he showed up as a security guard for Jim Knowles with Colby Harvell-Peel in post-game?
Yeah.
That was the best. That's still one of my favorite moments in a post-game setting is they literally just stood there.
Right.
And looked like they were guarding the Queen's Palace.
Right, yeah.
Like, it just It was incredible. It was great.
It was really funny because we weren't supposed to talk to either of them, I don't think, if I remember right. Or maybe we were supposed to talk to one of them, but not both.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah. And then Colby stood up there as the security guard for Jason.
Right.
Because Colby wasn't someone we were supposed to talk to. That's what it was. Yeah.
Exactly.
That was a blast.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Let's go back to Monday. Anything that really jumped out at you? Let's, for now, stick to OSU football only because there's some other interesting stuff out of the Mike Gundy press conference. But anything that really stuck, it didn't feel like there was a lot of big reveals from the Gundy press
I think Gundy's still concerned about the running backs, and not necessarily the running backs, more the run blocking. He talked about he wasn't happy with the run blocking, and I asked him, did you learn what you hoped to learn about your running backs? And he basically said no in a long way around it, but basically said no. The run blocking wasn't good. They only had 17 carries, I think, between the running backs. It wasn't enough to really judge that group yet, but I think we're going to learn more this week.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree with that. For those of you who are curious about injury updates or absence updates, in the case of DeAndre Jackson, he remains out at this time because of the transcript issue. I just assume he forgot to pay a parking ticket or something. I don't know why they're not releasing his transcript, but that's purely speculation on my part because that's the problem I had. So
parking tickets were always the worst.
Just speaking from experience. Jaden Bray still dealing with that thumb injury. Gundy said he does expect him back at some point this season. Didn't really give any details in terms of the timeline of when that might happen. I think he didn't actually get asked about Blaine Green. But I would assume that's probably the same scenario, though. Based on what's kind of rumbling around out there, it sounds like Blaine Green's injury might be a little bit more long term than what Jaden Bray is dealing with. So we'll see how that goes this week in terms of guys who are available, guys who aren't. That's compared to where they were at this time a year ago. It's not a horrible situation injury-wise. Obviously, you want those guys healthy and back, but it's not near as bad as what they were dealing with when Langston Anderson's done after warm-ups of in pregame of the first game. Braden Johnson's done after one game. They're not facing that type of dire situation just yet.
That reminded me that Mike Gundy literally said yesterday that he was just happy that Langston Anderson made it to the game.
Yeah,
and he was serious. It wasn't a joke. He was being serious, which, you've got to be happy he made it through the game.
Yeah.
He got in there and he played, and it was good to see.
It was. It was between he and Braden Johnson.
Yeah.
Really excited. Obviously, Johnson's having a bigger impact so far, but really excited to see both of those guys back on the field because they've endured a lot to get to this point. So you want to see those guys have some success. Other takeaways from Gundy. Obviously, the most interesting thing I thought was his opinion on the expanded playoff.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
He's not a fan, and I'm not entirely clear why.
Yeah, no.
He said it's the money, and he said basically he's afraid that regular season games are going to lose meaning. He compared it to basketball and baseball where nothing really matters in his eyes until you get to the regional tournament in baseball or the NCAA tournament in basketball. And, I see that argument, but you've got to be able to get to those tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of – I don't know. I get it. He said you lose 15 games in baseball. Everyone loses 15 games in baseball. Everyone loses games in basketball. Football, you have such a limited amount of games. Mm-hmm. You still got to win them all, and I think you still got to win them all in this situation. So I didn't quite agree with that. I think this is great, but so I'm still struggling to see where he's coming from a little bit.
Well, and I think with the system that they're putting in place where the 6 highest-ranked conference champions get in and then 6 at large, particularly the conference champions, that keeps something on the line. Mm-hmm. You can get to November and have 4 teams alive for a conference championship, and that, I think, heightens the value of those regular season games, whereas it could be a lot different if you're if that conference is okay, maybe they're only going to be the team that wins the conference might only be number 10 in the rankings. They're long out of a 14 playoff, but they're still in the mix for the 12 team. So I think it's going to have a lot of value. I'm excited for it.
And I think I don't know that he's quite grasping this is going to benefit OSU.
Right.
They would have been in the playoff multiple times at this point in the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. And so, last year they would have definitely been in the playoff.
Yeah.
And so I think and you had to like their chances to make a run last year with this team. So I think when the dust settles, I think it's going to be good, and I think maybe Mike will come around a little bit, but who knows? I mean, I'm struggling to see his point on this, I think.
Yeah. 8 times over the previous 17 years under Mike Gundy that they would have either been in the top 12 or been ranked in the top 12 in mid-November or later. So that's a real serious situation of being in the mix and having some high-stakes games.
Yeah.
So it's fun stuff. On the topic of fun, the best thing to come out of Mike Gundy's press conference was his explanation of why they reviewed
Yes.
the interception, quote unquote, by Spencer Sanders when there had already been an offsides flag thrown. That was your question. I appreciate you asking it because that was the most entertaining moment of the day.
I got nervous in a way because I started saying this might be random, Mike, and I thought he's going to blast me on this, because I'm already saying it's random, but it was the most random thing I've seen all night and in a long time, because it's literally a play that so what if there's an interception? It doesn't matter. There's an offsides penalty that OSU accepted, and so I said, Gundy, Mike, what was that? What was that explanation? Was that ever explained? He said they just wanted to try out their equipment, and he was joking, I think. And so to try out the equipment, and because he said he asked the line judge next to him, hey, what are they reviewing here? And he said, no, is this a reviewable play? And he said, no. Then what are they reviewing here? I have no idea.
No idea.
So, what was the point? What were they doing? Apparently they wanted to establish that the defender caught the ball in bounds. Who cares?
Apparently. Yeah.
It doesn't matter at that point. And it was obvious he caught it in bounds. So it was the craziest thing. Gundy's answer is great because he just kind of shrugged and was like, I have no idea. I have no power over this, but it was the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
so.
It absolutely was. Looking ahead to this week, Arizona State coming in, part of a home-and-home series where the Cowboys go out to Tempe, Arizona next year, a trip that I'm looking forward to, and hopefully you'll get to enjoy as well.
I hope so. I like Arizona.
Oh, it's fantastic. But as for this week, it's really hard to know what to think about Arizona State.
Yeah.
Such a chaotic offseason with transfer portal craziness. They got obviously a talented quarterback in Emory Jones, but it's hard to know exactly how good he is at this point. You look at last week's score and you think, are they better than we thought, or is Northern Arizona just not any good?
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's really hard to know what to expect with this team. And we talked a lot yesterday with Gundy about all the NFL influence that they have, and I understand that, but obviously something's not clicking for all the experience and knowledge that they have on that coaching staff to be this deep and still be kind of a mess as a program.
Yeah, it's year 5 for Herm Edwards?
Yes, it is.
I mean, this guy knows how to coach.
Right.
And like I said, he's got coaches around him. It's just a mess. And I don't know. I can't pinpoint. I look at numbers, I look at things, and I thought, I don't know what to think of this team. The run game was improved last week. Their defense was pretty good last year, I thought. And then it's out to a good start now. But I really think, as Mike Gundy said on Monday, they're going to know where they stand after this game, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's what really you look for at Arizona State. OSU opened up, 12-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Seems about right, I guess. But, I think they're going to get pushed a little bit more on this. They're going to have better athletes against them. They're going to have some NFL schemes in some shape or form against them. Emory Jones can move. It's going to be a mobile quarterback that they haven't really had to deal with yet. And a defense that's not going to just get pushed over by the tempo all the time. So I think it's going to be a good test. I'm with you. I don't know what to make of that team yet. I don't know the offensive line can hold up against OSU's defensive line.
Right.
I don't expect it to necessarily, but I didn't expect Central Michigan to come out with just allowing 2 sacks either. So I don't know.
Right. And I don't know that Arizona State can necessarily mimic what Central Michigan did in terms of getting the ball out so quick. I mean, they can obviously try. I don't know that Emory Jones is necessarily built that way, though. So I think that'll be a little bit of a challenge if they try to go that route as opposed to running what they usually run. This was an interesting part of the conversation with John Paul Richardson. He said, basically, if you analyzed all their games last year, they ran man defense in the secondary 75% of the time. He said against Northern Arizona, it was almost 90% zone. So a complete change in terms of what they were doing on the back end, and kind of left, as far as J.P. Richardson, a little bit confused knowing what to expect. So that could be an interesting dynamic to watch and see what they're doing, how they're disguising that coverage, what that does for Spencer Sanders in terms of understanding where to go with the ball. So
how do you prepare for that?
That's got to be very difficult.
I mean, if you're Casey Dunn, you're looking at it going, well, crap. Last year they did all this man, and now all of a sudden, what do we do with this?
Right. Well, and you think with a game like this, your analysts have probably been working on information, gathering it all not all off season, but during the off season to be ready for this. And all of a sudden, this new game comes in, all this new evidence of this current team, and is completely different than everything you've been studying for possibly weeks. I mean, obviously they haven't been implementing it with the team, but still, it's stuff that they've been game planning for and preparing for, and it's completely different all of a sudden. It's just bizarre.
Is there a chance it's a cat and mouse game?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure, I mean, the first game, sometimes in these games like that, Northern Arizona may not be very good, so they don't show much, and they show something totally different than what they may do later on. And so maybe there is going to be a bunch of man coverage. But either way, I think Spencer Sanders is advanced enough and talented enough and on a roll right now that I think you could throw either one at him, and I think he can adjust pretty quick. Yeah,
I agree. Going back to Sanders really quick, this just occurred to me, but how close was his performance, do you think, his Central Michigan performance, to what we're going to see from him all season? Is that, I'm not saying he goes out and throws for 400 yards every game, but that type of consistency, that type of speed, is that the Spencer Sanders of 2022?
I think it is.
I feel that way too.
I felt before last week's game, that he was going to have a big year anyways. And then he came out and looked like, I'm not going to say he's a Heisman contender, but he looked really good.
Yeah, he did.
And I think that carries over. I think it's a carryover from the way he finished last season, the way he played most of the season, to be honest. He's just grown so much, and I think this is the Spencer that we see moving forward.
The interesting thing with him is going to be, what did the dips look like? Because that was the big issue last year. 3 picks against Baylor in October, 4 picks against Baylor in the Big 12 championship game in December. In between, really good, really consistent, not a lot of mistakes. What do the dips look like this season? What does the bottom look like, and when does it happen? Because that determines, obviously, what games they're in and what games they're not. So, very intrigued by what this season could look like for Spencer Sanders. All right, before we jump into our predictions, anything else that you wanted to get to?
I think we've got to give a shout-out to Tom Hutton. Again.
I'm all for that.
Mike Gundy gave him another shout-out yesterday, too.
He did.
Called out the punting again. So your boy Tom Hutton, this is the Tom Hutton second right here. He gets 5 seconds. It's the Tom Hutton moment. Go.
5 seconds for every muffed punt. So as he gets more, I get extra time.
Yeah,
all right. Listen, what this guy is doing directionally punting is incredible. Was that about 5 seconds?
I think so. We'll say it's good.
All right. I'm impressed. All right. Let's jump into our predictions and wrap it up here from Stonecloud. Again, 917 South Husband here in Stillwater. We're going to be here on Tuesday evenings, so please come by and hang out with us in the future. We're looking forward to it. All right. Top of the list, who is the leading tackler this week for Oklahoma State against Arizona State?
I'm going to be honest. You gave me these topics the other day, and I didn't think much of it the rest of the time. So
that's the level of preparation we have for you here.
This is how I prepare.
On the Cowboy Chronicles.
This is elite preparation on my part. I'm going to go with Jason Taylor.
Jason Taylor, that's a solid one.
Because I thought he was going to do it the other day, and then he slowed down a little bit. So I'm going with Jason Taylor.
Yeah, he got off to a really hot start in the tackle department.
Yeah, and I think they tried to get him some rest, and they had to put him back in. So I think it was, so I think him, because Mason Cobb's interesting. I don't know that Kendall Daniels is going to keep leading the team in tackles.
Right.
But I think the way Jason Taylor was all over the place the other day, I was really impressed.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I'm going with someone who I think has a big time bounce back game. Not that he was horrible in the opener, but I'm going with Xavier Benson. I think that he had his moments. He had a few difficulties here and there. I think that he solidifies some of that stuff and has a much better performance. I think Xavier Benson leads this team in tackles against Arizona State.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
All right, the running back situation we've talked about. Very confused about what exactly that's going to look like going forward. But the one thing we know is that Dominic Richardson is the lead guy. He is the feature back of this offense. That said, he had 9 carries last week, and about 4 of those came in the late in the second half when they were just trying to get the game over with. So my question is, I think we both agree they're going to run the ball more this week. My question is, over or under 13.5 carries for Dominic Richardson this week?
Man, again, I prepared for this. I'm going to pass this test. I'm going to say under. I'm going to say he's going to be right at 12.
All right. I like that.
I think they're going to spread it out still, and Spencer's going to run the ball too.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think you're going to see Spencer running the ball a decent amount. Again, he had 8 carries, if I remember right.
I think that sounds right.
In that neighborhood. So definitely think you're going to see that again, but I think that they try to pump the ball to Richardson early a little bit more, and I think you're going to see him go over the 13.5 number. I originally, when I made this list, I went 15.5, and I was like, ooh, I'm not touching that.
I'd take the under on that for sure.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'll go over 13.5, however. All right. Next on the list, you mentioned Kendall Daniels, had 11 tackles last week. Had his first interception, the first interception of the season. So, who is the next Cowboy with an interception?
The next Cowboy with an interception. I'm going to go with – here's a crazy one for you. Trace Ford.
Ooh, wow.
Remember he had an interception in his last season, he full season.
That's right.
I think he's going to drop back again and fool the quarterback. Why not?
All right. Sticking with my theme from earlier, I'm actually going with Xavier Benson on this.
Okay.
He's a guy
he's going to have a big game in your mind.
Yes, in my mind. It appears that way. But he's a guy that I think is going to end up in coverage a little bit more because I think teams are going to try to target him that way, and I think he's going to come up with the pick. They end up in man coverage so much, particularly at the corners, that it's really tough for those guys to get picks. Same with Thomas Harper being in a lot of man. So I think the top candidates are Jason Taylor and either Shawn Michael Flanagan or Kendall Daniels at that other spot, but got a weird feeling about Xavier Benson this week.
Yeah.
Can't explain it.
I have no feeling whatsoever, so I just threw Trace out there. It just seems fun. Let the big guy get a big play.
Absolutely is. All right. So before we wrap it up here at Stonecloud, once again, wrap up everything. Subscribe to our newsletter at oklahoman.com. We appreciate you for that. Thank you for joining us on here. But now, okay, to preface our final question, we after the game on Thursday night, heading out of town, stop at the On-Q. Like we often do.
Yes.
They would have been, if we had a sponsor last year, it would have been the On-Q. Because
for the mobile podcast. It's perfect.
From the mobile podcast studio. It would have been On-Q. But as we're going in, Barry Trammell is discussing chips. I guess this is actually after we left. But anyway, discussing chips. He got chili cheese Fritos.
It's a pretty good choice.
And we discussed the popularity of original Cheetos. Or original Fritos. I'm sorry. Did I say Cheetos?
Yeah, you said Cheetos, but it's Fritos.
Yeah, Fritos.
Yeah.
Chili cheese Fritos. And he's not a fan of original Fritos. So it brought to my mind top chips as a snack item, as a side item, whatever it might be. I want your top 3.
Okay.
To be fair, my list is at 6 right now.
Oh man,
we're gonna have to narrow this down. On the fly.
Are we gonna go back and forth? I think we should go back and forth.
Count up.
Yeah,
3 up to 1.
No, I think we just go 1, 2.
Start 1 and go down. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. That's good because I at least know what number 1 is. Number 1. No, am I starting?
Yeah, you go first.
Right.
You
number 1.
Knock yourself out.
Number 1. My entire life, as soon as I was introduced to them, sour cream and onion Lays.
Oh, those are
number
good.
Number 1 off the charts.
They were on my list. I got to mark that off my list. Ooh, those are good. Yeah, those are real good. So
right, what's number 1 on your
number
list?
1 for me? Just a nacho cheese Dorito, man. Just the Doritos. They're my road trip snack. They're my go-to. If there's a Dorito, it doesn't matter if I'm on a diet or whatever. I'm eating Doritos. and I love them. So that's always been my go-to, nacho cheese Doritos.
So next time we're traveling somewhere and you tell me that you're on a diet, I need to hide all the Doritos is what you're telling me.
They're going to be gone.
Yeah. All right.
I've literally, on a road trip with Ashley before, she was asleep, and the bag of Doritos was behind my seat while I was driving, somehow reached around to grab them and eat them, and she woke up, and I had them beside me closed, and she said, how did you get those? I said, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to.
No. Nope. I might have put your life in danger for these Doritos.
Yes.
Just deal with it. Okay. Number 2, a little bit plain, but that's kind of describes me. So, original Ruffles.
Original Ruffles, those are good, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Does that take off Wavy Lace?
No.
Okay.
No,
just
very,
curious.
very different kind of chip.
Very different.
Very
Okay,
kind of
perfect. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the barbecue lay.
Oh, that's strong.
I love a barbecue
That's
lay
strong.
when I get them and stuff. Oh, hello. That was not us.
That was not. It wasn't our fault. I promise.
So that's 2.
All right, that's 2. Very, very solid. Now I got like 4 other options that I got to figure out where to go.
Yeah, I'm regretting my decision on barbecue lays.
I'm not going to say cheddar and sour cream Ruffles.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to say original Pringles, which
those are good too.
I love
Man,
Pringles.
This is a hard list.
And I'm not going to say original Fritos either.
Oh, okay.
They were right there.
This is what started
That's
it.
what started the whole thing.
All right,
I
all right.
assumed they would have been in my top 3 when I started this.
Yeah.
They're not going to
Yeah,
make it. I'm going with crunchy Cheetos.
Those are good.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good. That's hard. You know what I really like about Cheetos too? The baked Cheetos
Ooh, yeah.
are just as good as the crunchy ones.
Of the entire baked line.
Yeah, that's the best.
The best. Off the charts.
They don't taste any different.
No.
They don't have a different texture. They're just baked, and they're so good. So that's a double whammy right there. That's a good one.
That's strong.
So I think my final chip, I wanted to go with the regular Lay's potato chip.
Mm-hmm.
I love a regular Lay's potato chip. I've actually been to them a lot lately. They've been buying too many of them probably. But I'm going to go with the tortilla chip.
Ooh.
Because
Do we have a brand?
I'm a Tostitos guy mostly. But I like the On the Border brand too.
Mm-hmm.
But Tostitos. And I like the mini rounds usually is what I usually do.
Yeah, that's a good play right there.
But that's such a versatile chip.
Mm-hmm.
You can make nachos out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
You could dip it in salsa. You could dip it in guacamole. You could
Just
dip it
eat
in
it plain?
queso. Eat them plain.
Yeah.
They're fantastic plain.
Mm-hmm.
So the tortilla chip, and I feel like I've got a really good steal here at the 3.
It
but
is.
the tortilla chip is so versatile.
That's pretty good. I'm gonna throw out a name. Julio's.
Oh, yeah.
I always get them at the On Cue by my house.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where else they
Those
sell
are good.
them, but it's a very well designed and
there's-
flavorful chip.
And also when you go to a Mexican restaurant and they make their own chips, man, those are off the charts.
oh yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
tortilla chip.
That's solid. I'll accept it. All right. With that, do we even need to do most important thing I forgot? I feel like that's more a post game podcast thing.
Yeah.
We'll stick to that, to the post game podcast. All right. So with that, we'll wrap it up. Again, every Tuesday we're going to be here at Stonecloud. Come join us. Subscribe to the newsletter. We appreciate everybody for checking this out, whether you're on YouTube or the podcast channel. We appreciate Addison for putting it together for us and all the hard work that's going on behind the scenes. So thank you for listening to the Cowboy Chronicles.